mazuri sana na maswali ya tafakari. Maswali ambayo hayawezi kujibiwa kwa dakika moja au kwa siku moja. Ni maswali yanayohitaji tafiti, yanayohitaji kusoma.
Darubini ya Afrika kila Jumatatu hadi Ijumaa kuanzia saa 11 kamili hadi saa 12 kamili jioni majira ya Afrika ya Kati.
Channel Africa is moving with the times, and so is our WhatsApp line. We've changed our WhatsApp number, making it even easier for you to stay connected. Send us your voice notes, comments, shout-outs, and song requests to our new WhatsApp number, +27 83 288 6684. That's +27 83 288 6684. Save it, share it, and stay in the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. Channel Africa is evolving, and so are you. Stay connected wherever you are with our brand new website and mobile app. Stream your favorite shows, catch up on African news, culture, and conversations, all at your fingertips.
Africa is just a tap away.
Your world, your stories, now on the go.
Stay connected wherever you are.
Visit channelafrica.co.za or download the Channel Africa app today. Channel Africa, the African perspective. It's time for Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla. Stay tuned for insights, impact, and inspiration right here on Channel Africa. Available on the Channel Africa app. 1 hour, one continent, one voice. Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
And a minute past 9 Central African time. A very warm welcome to you. This is Africa World Hour here on Channel Africa, the African perspective, and 60 minutes of the very latest news and current affairs in and around your world, whether you are on the continent or in the diaspora. We would like to hear your perspective as we bring you the latest developments across the globe, really. Please do send us your thoughts, +27 63 406 9126. That's the hotline number to reach out to. Let's start with the stories making headlines this evening.
It's time for Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla. Stay tuned for insights, impact, and inspiration right here on Channel Africa. Available on the Channel Africa app.
Now we start with the latest developments on flooding in Mozambique. It's impacted over 620,000 people as per the latest count and has caused widespread damage to roads and bridges, with rain expected to continue. Volunteers have been using small fishing boats to reach survivors, with access becoming increasingly hard. President Daniel Chapo has cancelled his trip to the World Economic Forum in Davos. An activist and executive director for Decide Mozambique, Wilker Diaz, has more.
It's a terrible situation. We have only 6 helicopters for now, and 2 that helicopters came from South Africa, and others the government pays some amount to rent that helicopters, so we don't have means enough to try to save dead people at this moment. So that is the reason we have a lot of people who need that support, who are affected with the floods at this moment. So that is the reason I said right now I think we have more than 40% of the places are covered by water at this moment.
Meanwhile, 2 suspects have appeared in the Musina Magistrates Court in Limpopo on suspicion of smuggling 33 undocumented children into Zimbabwe through South Africa's Beitbridge border post. The accused, Zimbabwean nationals Decent Chokuwamba and Risenga Makenza, had their case postponed to Thursday for profiling and bail application. National Prosecuting Authority spokesperson Mashudu Malabi says the 2 are also accused of contravening the South African immigration laws.
2 Zimbabwean nationals appeared in Musina Magistrate Court for aiding illegal immigration and contravening immigration laws. The accused persons were arrested by Border Management Authority officials following the allegation of loading 33 undocumented minor children into a Toyota Quantum with the intention of departing the Republic of South Africa to Zimbabwe. Matter postponed to 22 January 2026.
And further afield in Davos, US President Donald Trump has fired off more social media posts asserting his desire to take over Greenland. One post shows an AI generated image of himself planting the US flag on Greenland. In another, reveals a private message from Emmanuel Macron in which the French leader tells Trump he doesn't understand what he's doing on Greenland. The BBC's Faisal Islam, who is at the Davos Forum, questions whether the US leader's close aides know what he's thinking.
Other business leaders are talking about, openly, will NATO survive? That's the sort of conversation. I spoke to a former Trump advisor who's the vice chairman of IBM, very senior in terms of the efforts of the Americans to get supremacy in quantum computers and AI. And he said Greenland will stay Greenland. He'd been to a congressional delegation here, senior congressman, Republican especially, and they said Greenland will stay Greenland. Basically no one could cope with the idea of invading it. But still, the conversation, extraordinary, baffling, surreal.
Meanwhile, the UAE President Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed Al Nahyan has accepted US President Donald Trump's invitation to the Board of Peace. The Foreign Ministry said in a statement the UAE reaffirms its readiness to contribute actively to the mission of the Board of Peace. It added it would support the greater cooperation, stability and prosperity for all. And finally, new research in Antarctica has found that penguins are breeding up to 2 weeks earlier because of climate change. Scientists studying Daily Gent 2 and Gentstrap penguins said the changes have taken place at a record rate. The BBC's Arlene McCulloch has the details.
Penguins nest on snow-free ground in colonies which can extend to hundreds of thousands of pairs, and the latest research leaves no doubt that the birds are adapting their behaviour to changes in the environment. Teams from universities in Oxford monitored 37 penguin colonies over a decade, during which the temperatures recorded by their cameras rose by 0.3 degrees Celsius a year. They found the biggest behavioural change in Gen 2 penguins, whose breeding season shifted by 13 days on average and up to 24 days in some colonies. The scientists warned that the changes could threaten the birds' access to food or force greater competition between species.
1 hour, 1 continent, 1 voice. Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
It's now 9:07. Right, on to developments in East Africa. Over 100 members of Uganda's biggest opposition party have been charged with various offences, including unlawful assembly related to violence around last week's elections. This was revealed by an opposition official who said that at least 180 members of the National Unity Platform were taken to various courts in the capital of Kampala on Monday and charged with a range of crimes. The news comes as the country's opposition leader Bobi Wine reaffirmed his commitment to standing up to President Yoweri Museveni despite his election defeat last week. Speaking from hiding, Wine said that it was now up to the Ugandan people to rid themselves of a dictator, as no state body would.
Protests are constitutional. They are allowed as per Article 29 of our Constitution. So we have encouraged the people of Uganda to evoke any constitutional and legal means of fighting back against this injustice, to fighting back to protect their democracy.
And that was Uganda's opposition leader Bobi Wine speaking to members of the media following his defeat against President Yoweri Museveni at the polls. Meanwhile, the Ugandan military chief Muhoozi Kainerugaba said he was praying for Wine's death and gave him 48 hours to surrender to the police following a contentious presidential election. The former pop star fled a military raid on his house hours before veteran Museveni was declared the landslide winner of last week's presidential election. For more on what's happening on the ground, we're joined now on the line by Ugandan digital rights researcher and consultant Juliet Nanfuka, whom we've been speaking to ahead of the elections and, of course, in the lead up to it. A very good evening to you, Juliet. Thank you so much for speaking to us. So the reports that we're getting of some 118 opposition members who've been charged. Let's just first start with the clarity. Were they rounded up and arrested before being taken to court? So how did this play out?
So, good evening, Tsepiso and everyone listening. So it seems they were rounded up from various locations. It's unclear. We just started getting messages of this large number of people from the opposition, affiliated with the opposition party, who have been assembled on various charges of unlawful assembly, conspiracy to commit a felony, being a common nuisance, and the obstruction of night patrol officers. So charges that are rather obscure, not particularly telling, but nonetheless have been the basis for them to be rounded up and assembled at the various stations that they were collected at.
And according to the information, is it only NUP members who've been arrested? If so, is this just a targeted response to what their leader Bobi Wine has been saying? Because we understand that he's in hiding given the threats that have been issued.
So Bobi Wine is indeed in hiding, as he has also indicated through various interviews that he has conducted. It may appear that it's largely NUP members who have been assembled, or rather charged, following the reports that we have received. The NUP is the opposition party that is dominantly challenging the NRM, which is the National Resistance Movement, which is aligned with President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. So it looks like it was very targeted at NUP members and individuals affiliated with the NUP.
And we've seen reports of Bobi Wine reportedly saying that he has no intention of challenging Museveni's win, but at the same time that he does have irrefutable proof that the elections were rigged and that there was fraud that occurred. Can you just share a little bit more about what's coming out from those reports?
So, of course, online there are various videos going around of ballots being ticked, ballot sheets being ticked. There are various reports, as often happens during times of elections. Sometimes it is past images being used in the current time. However, there are some where members online argue that it is imagery and footage from the most recent elections of rather questionable activities that may have influenced the elections. But nonetheless, these are scenes that we have witnessed quite a couple of times in recent elections, and they seem to have become commonplace, including in this year's election. So many questions remain there, but a lot of conspiracy theories remain online. Some verifiable, some really stories that are floating around simply to stir up emotion, and can also be a bit problematic.
And therein lies the rub, isn't that, Juliet? Because when we spoke about this internet shutdown, it was because President Museveni was saying the precise aim of it is to, ensure that there is no misinformation, yet at the same time we've seen the impact that lack of communication has had on the elections, including the turn up. So those who have recorded some of this information, are they speaking up, speaking out, even if it is anonymously?
Not so much. When we study online narratives, we see content floating around, people reacting to it, but not so much an ownership of the content. So there's a lot of reactions going on. And in those reactions are sentiments of distrust in the election process. There's sentiment of apathy as well. But on the other hand, there is arguments that this is footage or information generated by opposition parties, or actors rather, to cast a shadow on the election. So there's quite a bit of tug and pull going on. But this, again, was witnessed previously, and it was also the basis for the shutdown that we experienced last year, which also led to Facebook being shut down in 2021, and it remained shut down all the way into this election. So there was a tension there that social media also picked up, but acted on narratives that were being pushed by the ruling party and its and entities and individuals affiliated with it.
No, I mean, some of the allegations that Bobby Wine has made is that 10 people were killed at the house of his deputy president, Imbu Tambala. Do we know of any such incidents of summary killings or people being beaten? Because these are some of the allegations that we've heard, that there has been a massive violent crackdown on forces of change, as it were.
So there have been crackdowns in the lead up to the elections, during the elections, and of course post the elections. It's difficult to ascertain numbers previously due to the complete shutdown that we experienced. And now perhaps there is a sense of self-censorship in what people are putting out there, those who may have witnessed incidents, but we also have a media that was heavily controlled in the type of information that they put out in terms of covering risks or, riots, in terms of the narratives that they also shared. So there's a bit of a gray area there. With the commentary that Bobby Wine has put out, we have yet to get more figures. We have yet to get more information on what is happening out there. But once again, with the amount of self-censorship, with the amount of information that is flying around that is difficult to verify in some instances, some of these numbers will only be realized, might not be realized immediately. We might need a bit of time to ascertain exactly what has happened and the extent of impact it has had on human lives.
And then there are reports of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who is said to have made threats against Bobby Wine himself. Bobby Wine claiming that he said he has been reported in the past of making such threats against Bobby Wine and X. Can you just give us a bit of context here, who he is and what his behavior has been in the past, given the accusations of erratic behavior and the fact that he is not only President Museveni's son, but is widely believed to be his preferred successor?
So Muhoozi Kainerugaba is indeed the president's son, and is the head of the army essentially in Uganda. His online narrative has been quite disturbing, not only now but also in previous instances. It carries a very sensitive undercurrent of intolerance and hate speech, which is what we are seeing with some of the narratives he's pushing out, including this announcement that he has made calling for Bobby Wine to make himself available within 48 hours. There is a very dangerous narrative that forms part of the post that he puts out there. And, even the reactions that we see people posting in his in response to his posts brings up another element of what is actually happening in the social psyche of Ugandans. And again, that shows that we are not quite up to the dark when it comes to the tensions that the country is facing, including along political lines, but also along tribal lines and economic lines. And those are narratives that Muhoozi seems to really enjoy, could call it that, putting out on his social media posts, primarily on X. They rile people up, but they're also quite dangerous in the extent of dangerous speech that they seem to promote in these spaces and in a country as, I'd say, sensitive as Uganda, considering the time that we're in.
And beyond that, the fact that, as you mentioned, General Kainerugaba is the army chief. So is the scene, his post, being interpreted as an official military directive that could be or should be acted on?
Well, he's the head of chief, but there are processes that should be followed in such instances. Is social media the platform to make such an announcement? What due process has been followed? That remains unclear at the moment. If it is a directive simply instructed via social media, there may be a basis perhaps not to show up. If additional information or rather communication has been provided, we have not seen it in the public domain. Perhaps it should not be in the public domain, but there is nothing supporting such that such an act has been pursued. So it remains a very interesting time to see whether Bobi Wine will react to that request that has apparently come primarily via social media and perhaps not through any other formal channel that we know of.
And General Kainerugaba also writing that, I quote, "We have killed 22 NUP terrorists." Has this been verified? Is this taken as official government communication?
Official government communication should come via more offices such as the GCIC, which is the Government Communications and Interaction Center. Muhoozi has a history of some problematic content posted in online spaces. And that is what makes some of his announcements there content that one needs to really tread carefully with. Numbers might be higher based on what we've been seeing over, some of the reports that have been coming up over the last couple of days in terms of the lives lost in terms of the NUP lives lost in recent days. But I would not call that a formal announcement. I think there are various other channels where formal communication can be pursued, or alternately back up what has been posted on his social media. So we need a bit of additional information from sources beyond his social media account to verify what he's putting out there.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. Much appreciated. Ugandan digital rights researcher and consultant Juliet Namfuka. Always a pleasure to speak to you. And that brings the time to 21 minutes past 9.
Channel Africa is moving with the times, and so is our WhatsApp line. We've changed our WhatsApp number, making it even easier for you to stay connected. Send us your voice notes, comments, shout outs, and song requests to our new WhatsApp number, +27 83 288 6684. That's +27 83 288 6684. Save it, share it, and stay in the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. Channel Africa is evolving, and so are you. Stay connected wherever you are with our brand new website and mobile app. Stream your favorite shows, catch up on African news, culture, and conversations, all at your fingertips.
Africa is just a tap away.
Your world, your stories, now on the go.
Stay connected wherever you are.
Visit channelafrica.co.za or download the Channel Africa app today. Channel Africa, the African perspective. At the forefront, the most pressing issues on Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla.
Channel Africa.
Disaster management teams in South Africa's KwaZulu-Natal province are continuing to assess the damage caused by torrential rains that battered parts of that region for days now. The areas of Jozini and Umhlaba Yalingana are just amongst the hardest hit, with 150 affected in Jozini alone and at least 70 homes completely destroyed in the Emakonyeni area, the Red Cross Society, one of the humanitarian aid groups currently providing relief to flood victims, is calling on other stakeholders, including business and the private sector, to come forward and provide assistance to victims. To look at what assistance is needed on the ground, we're joined on the line by Red Cross Society's KwaZulu-Natal manager, Siyabonga Hlajwayo. Mr. Hlajwayo, very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us. So can you tell us what you found in terms of the extent of the damage in the area, and how is your organization able to help at this point?
Good evening to you as well as the viewers at home. Yes, the situation is quite dire, and we have been actually having a challenge accessing certain communities, but just as the weather is clearing and there's lesser rain, because it hasn't stopped raining, we are then able to access certain communities that we're not able to access previously. Just like the numbers of damaged houses are slowly growing as we are accessing more communities. The needs are there. Quite a lot of houses are totally damaged, leaving many people homeless. The roads are damaged, and some bridges are still flooded, which is still risky for sometimes even school-going children. They cannot even be able to go to school. People cannot go to work. And we have been also observing some risky behaviors from certain people, which we have been trying to engage with them and trying to control.
When you say risky behavior, can you tell us exactly what you mean by that, and which are the hardest hit areas, and how true are the stories that there are people, swarms of people who've actually lost everything, completely everything?
Yes, the risky behaviors are people that try to cross through bridges, flooded and damaged bridges. We've been seeing people trying to cross those bridges, and we've been seeing people trying to encourage others to cross through those bridges, saying they will assist them to cross through the bridges, which is a very concerning and a risky behavior, which we are not encouraging people to be doing. And yes, many people, as we are talking about totally damaged households, we've been to them, we have seen them physically, we have assessed many of them, we've profiled many of them. A lot of people have lost actually everything.
And that is very sad to hear. Are you getting reports of fatalities? Do you have numbers that you can share for us, and the scale of the number of people whose homes have been destroyed, just so that the message does come out to, as you say, businesses, other organizations that could come and help the Red Cross Society?
Yes, when you're looking at Ejozini, about 208 families are affected. And those are the families that we have been able to reach with the disaster management teams. The numbers could be growing. In Umhlabuya Lingana, there's more than 400 families that have been affected. In Umhlabuya Lingana, that's where I actually am today. There's even an evacuation shelter that has been activated in one of the schools here. We've got more than 100 people that are actually staying there, whose houses were totally damaged.
And the area that you're working with, just how far is it? And, for somebody who actually doesn't understand the area itself, I'm just trying to get a sense of just how wide it is. And you are working with disaster management teams. How are you dividing yourselves up to reach the most vulnerable of these communities?
Yes, the Red Cross Society carrying a responsibility of always complementing government during times of disasters. We do not just only donate relief items to government or give relief items to government, but we also provide human resource, availing our human resource volunteers as well as vehicles that will be going to communities with government. So we conduct what we call a joint operation formation or a committee, where we plan, strategize on how are we going to go to the communities, mostly because the disaster management teams are more familiar with the areas that they are working in. We would be splitting them into our groups so that there is members from the Red Cross, there's members from disaster management, and then we all go to the different communities. We are able to conduct assessment, profile the areas. Later on, we update each other, and then we keep on planning on the relief that is going to be delivered.
So, Siyabonga, tell us, what help do you need in terms of resources, perhaps in terms of numbers, if people are interested in joining your relief efforts? Please share with us.
Yes, there is a great need for, number one, I always say that there is always a great need for support with building material, because a person can be supported in any way, but for as long as they are still homeless, they are still in the worst situation. So supporting with building material, food is needed, blankets, mattresses, hygiene packs, school uniform for children, because they've also lost everything. We are also looking into bringing in more support in terms of psychosocial support. There's another program that we have, which is the restoration of family links. And we are looking into longer-term projects that are going to be ensuring that, even because businesses are also affected even in the local communities, so there is a need also to support the revival of those local businesses in the community, so that to ensure that communities are also self-sustainable in a way.
So just finally, how do people reach out to you? Do they reach out to the Red Cross, or is there a central coordination center, including, I know, the mayoral executive for cooperative governance, Thulasizwe Buthelezi, has the provincial government alone doesn't have the budget to cover the destruction. So through whom do they go through to offer help?
They can go through us because we are working hand in hand with from the provincial disaster management to district and local municipality disaster management. So we are there. So through our contact numbers, we can coordinate and facilitate how we ensure that the relief gets to the right people. So we do have our contact numbers, which is 076 223 8425.
Again, please.
076 223 8425.
Okay.
Our landline number for our provincial office is 031 563 2914. 031 563 2914.
Well, we do thank you for that information and wish you all the best, and we hope that we can be of help in bringing about the necessary emergency relief resources and personnel that you require through your efforts. That is the Red Cross Society's KwaZulu-Natal manager, Siyabonga Hlatshwayo, just speaking to us about the extent of the flood damage, not only to property, infrastructure and families, hundreds of families that have lost their homes and pretty much everything, including school children who are unable to go to school because of the destruction to infrastructure. It is exactly 28 minutes to 10.
As the sun rises on 2026, Channel Africa celebrates with you. This year, may prosperity flow like water. May unity strengthen our nations. And may every African story inspire the world.
Channel Afrique vous accompagne dans cette célébration. Que l'espoir illumine notre continent.
Que as vozes de África ecoem com orgulho.
From all of us at Channel Africa, we wish you and yours a joyful, successful, and prosperous 2026.
Channel Africa, the African perspective.
Channel Africa is moving with the times, and so is our WhatsApp line. We've changed our WhatsApp number, making it even easier for you to stay connected. Send us your voice notes, comments, shout outs, and song requests to our new WhatsApp number, +27 83 288 6684. That's +27 83 288 6684. Save it, share it, and stay in the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. The pulse of the continent in 60 minutes. Stay informed and inspired with Africa World Hour on Channel Africa.
And we continue with what's happening in and around your world, staying in South Africa, where the government has acknowledged serious failures in the country's scholar transport system. This comes as the families prepare to bury 12 school children who died tragically yesterday when the scholar transport vehicle they were travelling in crashed into another vehicle. Speaking during a joint media briefing on the preliminary investigations into the crash, the Premier of the Gauteng province, Panyaza Lesufi, and the country's basic education minister, Seviwe Kwahobe, outlined steps being taken amid mounting pressure to ensure that those responsible are held accountable. The accident comes just days after the Greater Gauteng Learner Transport Organization called for all scholar transport operators to ensure that they comply with the law and that their vehicles are roadworthy. For more on this tragedy, what it means for the sector and what more should be done, we're joined on the line by the spokesperson for the Greater Gauteng Learner Transport Organization, Sibongile Masego. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for speaking to us, Ms. Masego. It's tragic that this time of the year, unfortunately, does come with it these incidents, and I think this one has truly touched a lot of people. Just share with us your impressions on not only the information that's coming out, but what is broken with the system.
Good evening to you and good evening to your viewers. Firstly, I just want to send my condolences to the families that lost their loved ones, to the community and everyone, the school community and the learner transport community. Now, the tragedy that has happened is something that was not expected at all. And we believe that this has taught a lot of drivers safety and compliance on the road. We as learner transport operators, we should all the time be vigilant on the road and keep the rules of the road. If the driver kept the rules of the road and followed all the cars, this incident wouldn't have happened. So as the organization, we are deeply, deeply saddened by what happened in Vanderbijl Park.
And how many learner transport drivers and operators do you yourselves represent? And if you could share with us the vetting process, procedures that they undergo as an organization, what do they commit to when they join your organization?
When operators come to the organization or when we go outside for campaigns, what we do is when an operator joins an association, that operator should have a PDP, should have a driver's license. The driver should have a license disc and a COF, and the car should be roadworthy. That's what we do. We vet drivers. We even vet drivers on who is this person. Does this person have criminal records? We check all those things. Then we take drivers. We register them in our station. Then we register them with the Department of Registration in the Department of Transport. And there's a system that the Department of Transport has just developed, the system of digitalization, where all drivers have to apply for digitalization. Then that driver can now apply for operating license. That's how we vet our drivers.
And I mean, passenger safety is one thing, but children are vulnerable community. So surely extra care must be taken in terms of ensuring that those drivers are alive to that. Is there something that you encourage as operators, the type of person who would fit the bill to be able to exercise, caution when driving with young ones, so just discernment on the type of driving that is safe for young lives?
Now, our drivers, a person like this incident that happened in Vanderbijl Park, the young driver, the 21-year-old driver, was not the owner of the car. That is not the person who joined the organization. The person who joined the organization is the father of the young boy. So now, in our organization, we hold meetings all the time, and the operators and owners come. But now we know that in the learner transport organization, in the past few years, the organization has been infiltrated by young people. We can't we blame the system that when they finish school, there's nothing that they do. So the easiest industry is learner transport. Parents buy them microbuses, parents buy them cars and give them cars. The moment they're 18, at times we would fight with some drivers. You find a driver is 18, 19 years and is operating in learner transport. So I think that is the challenge that we have because of lack of regulations in learner transport, more especially our learner transport, which is door-to-door. They call us private learner transport.
And just finally, what should parents be looking out for in terms of, your basic means test on whether the operator is qualified? And is it something that the drivers themselves experience as challenges that the government, the province needs to, take heed of?
Firstly, parents, we have our TikTok account where we all the time speak to parents, we speak to operators, FGGLTO. But listen, parents, when you look for a transport driver, go to the school. I think the system is flawed just there. Because the schools should be having a database. Every school should be having a database of all operators that are operating in that school. And all the details of the operator that operates in that school. And that does not happen in most schools, but in some schools it does happen. So when parents are looking for learner transport, they should be going to the school and say, school, I'm looking for a transport for my child or daughter or son to this area. Then the school will know this is the particular driver and we have vetted this driver and this driver is in this organization. So that doesn't happen, and that should happen because that is in the National Land Transport Act, that schools should make it a point that children are safe. In fact, the National Land Transport Act says the school should release one teacher or one person that will be in that transport to monitor the driver and see that everything goes well in the transport. Yes, that doesn't happen. I think the Department of Education should work closer with the SGPs and the learner transport operations to make it a point that every school has a database for operators, and parents are negligent when they look for their children's transport. Because what parents do, they look for a cheaper transport. Whether the transport is full or not, they go for that one. They don't want these. And those learner transport operators that are cheap, they're not in any structure. They operate by themselves. As I said, there's no regulation. So that is the challenge that we have, that we feel that the Department of Education should come on board and work with the Department of Transport for us to deal with this challenge, to alleviate these accidents not to happen in our industry.
Thank you so much for speaking to us. Much appreciated, and a very hard issue to discuss just in terms of the outcome. What we're seeing is dozens of unnecessary and tragic accidents involving scholar transports. Bongile Maseko is the Greater Gauteng Learner Transport Organization spokesperson.
Let's just do it.
Your life just got easier. Get the Channel Africa app and take us wherever you go. Catch the latest news, enjoy your favorite shows, stream the music you love, and stay connected to the continent. All in one spot, right in your pocket. Simple, quick, and always with you. The Channel Africa app. Download it now on iOS and Android. Channel Africa is moving with the times, and so is our WhatsApp line. We've changed our WhatsApp number, making it even easier for you to stay connected. Send us your voice notes, comments, shout-outs, and song requests to our new WhatsApp number, +27 83 288 6684. That's +27 83 288 6684. Save it, share it, and stay in the conversation. Channel Africa, the African perspective. 1 hour, one continent, one voice. Africa World Hour with Tsepiso Makwetla on Channel Africa, the African perspective.
The South African National Space Agency has put out a warning for elevated geomagnetic storm activity to affect the Earth on Tuesday. That's today. The geomagnetic storm is caused by a burst of energy from the sun and will affect high-frequency radio communications on Earth. The agency says recent activity on the sun triggered coronal mass ejection, a cloud of particles careening towards the Earth and expected to impact Earth from the early hours of tomorrow. For a look at what the activity means, we're joined on the line now by SANSA space weather forecaster Nkosinathi Masango. A very good evening to you, Mr. Masango. Thank you so much for speaking to us. It really sounds like one of those out of space movies. Just even mine now is what I'm thinking. What am I reading exactly? What am I saying to people is going to happen?
Good evening, viewers. Thank you for having me. I'll just quickly explain what a space weather storm is. So space weather it's similar to terrestrial weather. The only difference is that it's where it happens in the atmosphere. So it happens in the upper part of the atmosphere, and it affects our technological systems, not necessarily human beings directly like that, but the technological systems that we use. Because remember, we monitor the sun. So SANSA, what it does, we monitor features that are on the sun. So we normally have features like your sunspots, what we call your sunspots. We also have features called coronal holes. So based on the time of the year where they are and how big they are in terms of size also, we have different phenomena that happen. So we have what we call a solar flare. So a solar flare is also something that's quite intense, and this is one of the reasons why we have this whole space weather event that's currently happening at the moment.
Okay.
So a solar flare, yes.
Okay, because I was going to ask you to please explain what a coronal hole is and also solar flare, and to the naked eye, is it something that we can see, or is it, as you say, it's just something that impacts on communication?
No. So with a sunspot, so a sunspot, what it is, it's not necessarily naked with the eye, but you can use a telescope and then you can see through a white light image. So whenever you see the sun and has those dark black spots, those are your your sunspots.
Mm-hmm.
With a coronal hole, you can't see it with the naked eye. We have to use your filters, your EUV filters. So yeah, unfortunately with the naked eye, you can't see it. So with a solar flare, what happens is that these sunspots, they carry energy with them. Remember, the sun is built of a material that we call plasma. So when there is too much material that has built up, it's sort of like it will have an outburst, which that's what we call a solar flare. So it's this sudden brightness that happens on the sun, and it travels at the speed of light. So that outburst comes out. It depends what it will affect at the time. So sunspots produce what they call solar flares, which is what happened now. Recently, we had an X-class flare, something that we call, it's different types of levels. So we have a C-class flare, M-class flare, X-class flare, X-class being the highest, so far an X1.9. So this carries out energetic particles that travel within the interplanetary magnetic field in the atmosphere, so to say. And when it carries this type of energetic particles, it comes in as what we call the solar wind. So the sun does produce wind as well, just like terrestrial weather, which is called the solar wind. So when the solar wind travels, it travels through the interplanetary magnetic field, like I said, and then it's going to be in contact with your magnetic field. Remember, the Earth is surrounded by what we call a magnetic field that shields us from these type of energetic particles. However, they will not necessarily hit the Earth directly, but they will travel around the magnetic field and they'll go to the areas where it's the weakest, which will be your poles. And that's where these solar energetic particles come in.
So
Are you still with me?
I'm still with you, and I just wanted to say that we understand that there have been sightings reported in the Western Cape, and the description is that of aurora displays. So those who have seen that, would they have been using telescopes? Is it people who, as you say, are aware of these occurrences, or is it something that it's and which parts of South Africa can this be cited, basically?
Okay, so as I was explaining, so what happens for you to want to see such a phenomenon, which are your auroras, some they call it the northern or southern lights. So these energetic particles will enter through the poles where it's your high latitudes, and then they will start to interact with the type of gases that you find in the atmosphere, like your oxygen, your nitrogen, all of those types. And then if those gases interact at different altitudes, you get to see the different lights. So usually they happen at the higher latitudes because of that's where mostly you get these energetic particles. That's where they interact with each other the most. And also you see them at areas where there is no light interference. So it should be like a very clear visibility horizon like type of view. So mostly they are seen in places that are closer to your far north poles, closer to your north poles or south poles. Hence, Cape Town, you're most likely to see them more than versus what you'll see in the interior. So people along your coast, mostly in the Western Cape, can see them, but you also get to see them in Norway, Norway, in the USA mostly, but in South Africa, yeah, it happens, but after quite some time.
Okay. Well, just if people want to learn a little bit more about this geomagnetic storm and the moderation or strength of the activity, where else can they go? Is there a website that they can learn about it? And as you say, it affects communication. I'm still wondering how.
Okay, so first I'll answer the one way what do I mean if it affects communication? Remember, with a satellite has a signal, right? And then with the signal that comes from the satellite, you need also a receiver, right? So that the signal can travel from the satellite to the receiver. So the signal, when it travels, it goes through the ionosphere or through the atmosphere. Now, those solar energetic particles or those electrons, you do find them within the ionosphere. So when this type of storm happens and they release those type of energetic particles, they start to interact with those electrons that you find in the atmosphere. And what happens is that now it will start to interact with that signal. So basically, it's like as your signal travels through, it gets contaminated. So it degrades the signal. So by the time it gets to the receiver, the signal is not of great quality. Hence, you get some people complaining, saying that maybe you were trying to measure maybe certain coordinates. If you're doing maybe surveying or anything that relies mostly on GPS, you might get inaccurate readings based on the fact that that signal was contaminated by those type of energetic particles.
How did you get into this?
When the storm... So, you mean the field of study?
Yes, because I see like what led you to be like, I want to talk about geomagnetic storms.
Okay, initially I was doing normal weather, the terrestrial weather, the one where you get to know if it's hot or cold. So I studied meteorology. I wanted to become a weather forecaster. And then, yeah, I saw an opportunity and came the side and to do something else, which is weather in space.
I'll tell you what, you are more than welcome to be our daily weather and space forecaster. I'm finding this so fascinating. It's absolutely crazy, but I really appreciate that you're talking to us about it, and all the best. And do come back again. If there's something that is happening out there in the air that we can see or cannot see, or it can be felt, please do come back and tell us.
Okay, coming back to where you can maybe get the latest updates, we do have Twitter. We are available on Twitter, which is at Space Weather SA. We also have a website where you can continuously check our daily bulletin. So we get to tell you the conditions, which is at sansa.org.za. So please just keep on checking that website. And we'd also like to appeal to maybe the public. If you do use any form of GPS readings and you have seen that maybe you had some disturbance in your readings or anything of that sort, please you can contact us via our email, our work email, which is spaceweather@sansa.org.za. And for interest sake, there was a project that was done where we actually were in contact with Mr. Patrick Davids, the Red Bull pilot. So he was doing some of his practice runs in 2024 in October, and there was a storm with similar conditions like this one, and he couldn't get his readings properly. So that affected his practice run, and he didn't know what it was, but there was an interview that is also online on YouTube. You can just type Patrick Davidson, yes, Red Bull champion, and yeah. So that's also one of because he relies a lot on keeping time and also being accurate in terms of the readings. So if, it's something you can just look out and see the type of applications or the type of people that have been affected. But otherwise, thank you so much for having me.
So in the I'm very optimistic, but in the event that Elon Musk says, hey, want to come up to space, I must make sure that we don't have a geomagnetic storm, right? So I need to check in with you.
Yeah, yes. You have
because
to.
that might just interfere with my trip to space.
Yes, it might. Remember, this type of phenomena, they affect industries. Like I said, I put emphasis on the ones that rely a lot on GPS accuracy or coordination, but it does affect your aviation industry in the sense that these type of magnetic particles, they can give an access to people to receiving what we call radiation exposure. So exactly, people who go to space, we don't have necessarily a very strong magnetic field, so those type of things can happen.
So that's what I'm thinking. Imagine the GPS for us to come back from space back to Earth. It does not function. Not the kind of thing that I want to do.
Yeah, no, we also wouldn't want that kind of situation.
Because thank you so much for indulging me. Really appreciate that. Thanks for the education. Gosnachi Masango is the Sansa Space Weather Forecaster. She says you can just go to the website Space Weather Forecaster. Fascinating stuff. Geomagnetic storms and aurora displays that South Africans in the Western Cape have already experienced, and as she says, it affects communications like your GPS. So when you came here, Shayla, you did not experience some lightning bolts, some sunspots that hit your GPS in a particular kind of way?
No, actually. Okay. Tell me, so when it hits your GPS, what happens? You lose connection?
You get the wrong coordinates.
Oh, so we could be traveling to Mpumalanga.
Like I said, I am on a spaceship with Elon Musk, and then we're supposed to return.
Yeah.
But...
you land in Mars.
Jabon or Venus. Hey, guys, never underestimate what's happening in the world around you.
Sheesh. Okay, so what comes up on African Diaries, rather interesting twist, not as exciting, but very necessary. So in the first hour of the show, we speak to Usbongile Ndashe, who is an executive director for the Initiative of Strategic Litigation in Africa. And we're going to be chatting about her work with the African Union Convention. And this aims to end violence against women and girls. In the second hour of the show, we speak to Elaine Smith, and we're going to be talking about her neuro-linguistic programming, which helps you unpack trauma. And this is part of a movement called Baggage Depot. And all of this is, of course, in the context of our GBV Tuesdays that focuses highly on ensuring that we are not just aware, but we understand the steps and the measures that we're taking.
So the linguistic programming, is that part of the tools that you use to get over, like... I suppose, what you profess or how you speak about what you've been through. And
But also to churn it out of you. 'Cause sometimes your brain will block things and you won't necessarily have a clear understanding of what it is that happened to you. All you know is that you feel these sensations, these emotions. And so I think that's pretty interesting.
That's why I've always said, urban dictionaries and how they grow, the type of words that get added in.
Yeah.
I was saying everybody's talking about gaslighting now.
What is gaslighting?
Now what I have always understood gaslighting to be somebody who, when you express your reality, it's basically that mental manipulation and trying to say to you what you experience, what happened to you is not real.
But what if their experience of the same thing wasn't necessarily yours? So they're not intentionally trying to dim down your light, but they're saying, but my reality is X.
But there's a difference.
Okay.
Where you say, this is my narrative, that is your narrative.
Yeah.
So my understanding of gaslighting is to say to you, but I don't know what you're talking about. That did not happen.
But they don't know.
But like if somebody kicks you.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bruh.
Okay, let's give that context. Someone kicks you, right? And you're like, ow. And they're like, but everyone kicks me and I don't feel it. You see? And I think this is...
But you're not acknowledging that I felt pain.
Because I've never felt pain.
That's a you problem. I'm feeling pain. How about that?
I know that, but I don't know what you're talking about.
I think that's my thing. And that's why I'm pointing to urban dictionaries and the use thereof.
Yeah.
Because then people, instead of couching it in that manner, I remember reading this a long time ago, saying that sometimes narcissistic people, they don't acknowledge the impact that they have on the next person. And rather what they do is they blame the next person and say, if you feel like that, you must own your feelings. But it's a two-way stream. Nobody's ever in a relationship on themselves or in an interaction by themselves.
Yeah.
So I suppose it's about where somebody begins, that their accountability begins and ends in their interaction with the next person.
I think, just to your point, I don't think we know how to communicate. I think we don't, because I might be trying to express my view, but I superimpose it on you because this is my view. Instead of acknowledging where you stand and what it is you're feeling, I go, but the general status quo is that this is X.
And also just trying to understand that this is what you've said, this is my reality, but somewhere along the line we have to find common ground so that we can communicate better with each other. Because like, when somebody says, oh, you have no filter, like normally when you ask me something and I will answer you, like you will say this, and I said this is, people say, but you don't have a filter. Then I go, so was I supposed to lie? But then I'm starting to understand that people say, hey, I was about to get into a conversation, but I'm like, no, you're not getting that out of me.
Well,
but for another day, pack it.
This is how we scribe in our diary today.
All right. And that's it. That's how we say goodbye. Good night.
Conversations that touch the heart and inspire change. Here on African Diaries, only on Channel Africa. Join us on www.channelafrica.co.za.
It is 2 minutes after 10 p.m. Central African time. A blessed and beautiful one to you and yours. Welcome to African Diaries. Shayla Ndikumana keeping you company. And we've got the next 2 hours together. And we're going to be looking at our GBV campaign. These are efforts